If you click this video, you are about to, or you're thinking about buying a property in Belize, and it's a good thing you did, because right now I'm going to be breaking down ownership rights in Belize. So different types of ownership rights that we have in the country here. I'm going to be breaking down taxes in Belize, the closing process, all of these questions that you're probably thinking right now to get that trust to move forward with your investment in the beautiful country. If you don't know me, my name is Will Mitchell. I am the regional owner of WmC&x in Belize. I oversee 13 offices here, over 100 agents. And also, if you want to learn more after the video, grab a copy of my book, The Investor's Guide to Belize Real Estate. We will throw the link in the description below. With that being said, ownership rights in Belize. If you've already watched some of our videos, you know that Belize is a country with full ownership, fee simple title. We have a British parliamentary democracy here, and that is why you can actually own a property here as a foreigner. When you contrast to other countries in the region here, typically they're based on Napoleonic civil law, and they do have a two-tier ownership structure. We just did a video on Mexico, breaking down Tulum versus Belize, talk about all the differences in taxes, the different implications of that, but also just the ownership rights. So typically you're gonna find in those countries, they have restrictions that as a foreigner, you can't own. So in Belize, just to start with a bit of a blanket statement, you absolutely can own a property here, and it's one of the biggest assets, and it's actually one of the reasons why so many people invest in real estate here. So there's two different types of areas in the country of Belize from a lands perspective. You have the declared areas and the undeclared areas. Now, both of these do have whole ownership, but I'm gonna break down the different type of title that you might receive. So the declared areas, in 1987, the Registered Lands Act was passed, and they implemented a new system, which is a land certificate system. So every property has, when you get a physical title with that property, it'll say the town or the village, the block, and then it'll say the unique parcel number for that town or for that property. So physical title, unique parcel number. Now, you might be looking at a development and they have their developer lot numbers. Do not get that confused with the parcel number. There might be 20 developments that have lot 5, but your parcel number is going to be your unique property number. And when you're buying that property, you're going to get the transfer of lands document. You'll need 3 copies of that signed by the purchaser and the vendor, and they'll all need to be notarized. And then you'll also have your physical title. You'll submit all of that to the lands department, and then from there, they will go through the transfer process. Now, within that, you also have Chapter 196, which is the Strata Title Act, and that allows you to have whole ownership on a condo. So a strata title, think about it like this. Basically, if someone has a building on the beach over here to my right with 6 units, each unit will have its own physical title. And how you'll know it's a strata title, they'll have a little H on your title. So break it down really simply. That's kind of how the strata title works. You might find some other ownership structures that people are putting together that I'm going to talk about at the end of this chapter. So stay tuned, because these could be pitfalls that you might fall into. Next up though, let's talk about the undeclared areas and the types of titles you would find in those. Undeclared areas are under the land title system, where in the form of title are a deed of conveyance, a deed of assent, and a transfer certificate of title. The transfer of property under this category varies on the type of title. So the oldest form of ownership rights in the country of Belize is the deed of conveyance. And this is based all the way back to the British colonial days. And it's very similar to what you might find in the United States. So this is one of the forms of ownership you might encounter. And it is whole ownership. It just might be a little trickier as you get further back. It'll show all the encumbrances, all the things that ever happened historically with that property on that chain of conveyances. And basically a TCT is a physical title, whereas ownership by conveyance is a registered right to ownership of a particular parcel of land. So you can take that deed of conveyance and convert it into a TCT. Now, again, you're gonna find this in specific areas of the country. If you're looking at Ambergris Caye, it's probably going to be that first form of ownership, because just about everything is on the new system with your land certificate. So that is how you can own a property in Belize. And there's more details on that I want to break down for you guys, but it's not everything covered there. If you have specific questions, my email's up there, or if you want to learn anything about Belize, or if you want to buy a property, again, email's up there. Let's talk about corporations though, because you might hold a property in a corporation. A lot of our clients hold their properties in a corporate entity called an IBC. That is an international business corporation. And if you are financing a property, there's a couple of different ways you can do that. But typically what you're gonna find is there aren't many banks in Belize that are going to finance a property. Now, there's a couple benefits, and there's pros and there's cons of this, right? So let's start with the bad side, we'll move to the good side after. The cons, it is more difficult for you to find a property, to own a property out here, unless you're just coming in with the cash ready to go. Now, on the flip side of that, the reason it is harder to get a loan in Belize is because we have a very secure banking system. So the banks have a higher reserve requirement. Typically it's 21 cents for every dollar deposited must be held in reserve. So it's not a fractional reserve system like what you're gonna find in the United States where they can lend up to 10x of what's deposited. So we don't typically see these bank failures like you would find in the United States, but it is harder to get financing. So for me, I love it because it's very stable real estate market. You don't find these big waves of values. Typically, we're just kind of steady Eddie. We're just chugging along and we see a little bit of appreciation. And that's what I really love about Belize. It's a secure investment from that standpoint. But if you do find a deal, typically it'll be with seller financing, and there's a couple different ways you can do that. So say the property is held in an IBC, that's an international business corporation. Typically the way that that will be done when you're financing is you'll take the shares of that corporation which owns the property. So it'll have, on the physical title, it'll say corporation 12345 is the owner. You'll take the shares of corporation 12345, and then whoever the seller who's financing that, they will register a charge on that actual corporation saying that, basically it's being financed right now. That's way one if you're doing it through a corporation. Way two is it could just be that you have a local Belize company or a actual just physical, name on the property or some other entity. And in that case, you might register the charge directly on title, and you will see that in the land certificate system directly in the additional provisions category right on that title. So you'll see it written in there, any encumbrances. And if you want to find out what those are, you can do a simple title search and that will pull all the details from the lands department so you have that broken down. Now, let's talk about everyone's favorite subject. You guys already know what I'm talking about, it's taxes. Good news is in Belize, we have a very favorable tax structure. So this is gonna be a lot more fun than what you might be used to in the United States, in Canada, Europe, wherever you're from. So let's just talk about it quick here, guys. So we have no estate tax in Belize. We have no capital gains tax in Belize. We have very favorable property taxes. So what you're gonna find is typically they're about 1.25% of the assessed value of just the land, and we don't see big fluctuations in that. So in Mahogany Bay, for example, on a beautiful home, typically it's gonna be around 150 bucks per year. That's paid once per year in April. From a rental income perspective now, when you want to rent your house short-term or you want to rent your condo short-term, we have a system that's been implemented by the Belize Tourism Board. So basically you're going to apply for what's called a hotel tax license. Now, this application process can take a little more time, and they do have some set requirements that you need to meet before you can get that. Basically, they're making sure you have all the security stuff ready for fires or whatever it might be. You have your fire extinguishers, exits properly marked, all of that stuff. They're going to make sure of that. Then you're gonna make that application. Once you get that application approved, again, this can take a little bit of time, so be patient with them. I always say in videos, complaining in Belize, it's not gonna make things move quicker. Be patient, work with people, bring a good attitude, and things move quicker. But that is going to be issued to you after for your specific unit. And then after that, it is a 9% tax rate on short-term rental income. So overall, when we're really breaking down the taxes here, guys, it is a beautiful place to be. Now, let's talk about your agreement of sale and your closing. So when you do go to make an offer or purchase a property, typically what you're gonna draft up is an agreement of sale. There might be a financing agreement of sale, so it depends on if you're financing or buying outright. They could be different, but overall, the items that you're gonna need in that agreement of sale are the seller in accordance to identification, the address of the seller in accordance to their residential address, the name of a buyer in accordance to identification, address of a buyer, residential address, same deal, the legal description of the property being sold, that would be the block, the parcel number, etc. Purchase price, the currency must be stated, terms of the sale, if there are any special conditions, it must be stated, property taxes, the escrow agent, and the wiring instructions. And when you go to close, you will set that closing date. There might be a deposit for the property. Overall, there's gonna be a lot of similarities to what you might be used to in the US and Canada, but those are some of the items that you are going to need. Now guys, if you have any questions about real estate in Belize, if you wanna purchase a property, as always guys, my info is up there. Shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to help, or have anyone on the RE/MAX team help answer your questions. And of course, guys, we'll see you in the next video and hopefully down here on your beautiful property in paradise soon.